I'll
All
forget.
right. I mean, technically we have a quorum. Shall we get started? You okay with that, Karen and Dave? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order. In accordance with the requirements of open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and it will be broadcasted over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel. The agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may be in fact discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. With that, I'm going to start with a roll call. Karen,
Here.
Pat,
Here.
Dave,
Here.
Chris Sullivan.
Here.
And also with us today is Chris Ruth, who's our facilities director. Right, welcome.
I'm here as well.
There you go. All right, so why don't we jump right to it and start with the facilities director update.
Okay. All right. So I'll run through a couple of things here, and if I'm out of order for anyone, I apologize. But so the first update is the town beach house. All the major structural work is complete. We have a little bit of odds and ends trim work that's getting wrapped up this week and maybe into the beginning of next. The next one I have is the snack shack over at McNally Field. We have hired somebody to remove the top half, which is the one that's, dangerous. The bottom half is still structurally sound. So we're gonna leave the bottom half because, the electrical and all the water's in there. And I have reminded everyone involved that the sign that's up on the top half needs to be saved. So that'll hopefully be off tomorrow, but I'm not 100% sure on that. The next update I have is we have hired a recreation director. Her name is Angela Clement. She is starting on Monday, the 27th. At the moment, her hours are planned to be in the Ritter building Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That may change as we get going and the needs become more apparent for her, but for now, that's the plan. The next one I had is for town beach staff. The beach director is coming back, as well as the majority of the lifeguards we had from last year. One of them is only available starting in July.
Yeah, I'm working on that, Chris. That's actually, don't ask, but he's sort of my kid, so I'm working on that. 'Cause I'll make sure he circles back with you guys, because I told him he needed to be clearer than what he did. So he'll be circling.
And, working on confirming all of their certifications and all that stuff right now, just to make sure everyone's ready to go for the start of the season. The next one I have is just a quick budget update for you. The budget from last year is changing a little bit. Heather put the budget together because it was done before I was hired, but there's an additional 5,000 in salaries for programming and an additional 10,000 towards the purchase of service accounts, which covers all the repairs and maintenance for the building. So for fiscal year 24, we'll have a little bit extra money, which will help because there's a whole lot of projects on the list that we want to get cleaned up.
Chris, could I interrupt for just a second?
Sure.
That line item also pays the contract for services for maintaining the parks, lawns and stuff.
Yep. Yeah. The
Just to
landscaping
verify.
is all in that as well. Yep.
Right, thank you.
The next update I have for you is in regards to Marshall Park. We've gotten our revised quotes in and verbally released WOLA and their civil engineer. We're just waiting on contract to be issued and sent out.
And that's and that's for the schematic design.
Yes.
I'll just elaborate it a little bit if that's okay with you, Chris. Okay, so we got the engineering money last November and we needed to get, so we're getting the basic package from WOLA and Meridian because they have done when they did the conceptual design for us, they did measurements, they did, a lot of work. So we're getting the basics of the schematic designs from them so that we can capture that data. And after this is done is when we're going to go into the bigger phase of getting the what is it called? Bid ready documentation, construction documentation, and all that other wonderful stuff. So they did send us a quote, which then Chris and I had a meeting with them and we scrutinized the quote to the maximum to really understand what is that we are going to have delivered to us, and actually helped us because now we'll have an idea what some of the items that we'll need already for the next phase. It's because we went through this checklist. And the timeline on that, once that contract is signed, it is 4 to 6 weeks. They did not change that despite that there has been a delay. So.
And are they still working with Meridian? Is it Nick who's their civil?
Yeah, it is. And
Um,
Nick's going to do the engineering part of that.
okay, so it's basically the same team we had before.
Right, and it's really because we needed the documentation to get the baseline of
And will
everything they did.
Will they be able to, when we talked about grants a few months ago, there was a lot of stuff that we needed answers for that we didn't have yet. And we obviously didn't know that at that point in time. Will they be able to, does it look like they're going to be able to answer most of those questions?
They are. So it's interesting because Chris Sullivan started this process and then which he did a lot of work with the RFP. So once we sign the contract, I'm going to actually send them everything I have found for sustainability, and they're going to try to hit those check marks. But they also gave us quotes for their hourly time because of the following. We're getting the basic schematic design. That documentation is good enough for us to start applying for grants. Okay, so first thing, but that basic package for schematic design does not include the base of design reports, but we can ask them as a separate add-on to write those. And Catherine, I did bring this up and Chris did too. And Catherine is actually very comfortable writing those reports because she's the one who created them. So that's actually was one revision that she did was to include their hourly rate that we can contract them to write those reports. But
Okay.
the package that we're gonna get is basic enough for the next phase, but it is also enough for us to use for hopefully start applying for grants this summer.
Okay.
Yeah, we also had since then had the property surveyed, so they'll be now getting their drawings in line with the actual survey to confirm that everything is exactly where it's supposed to be. So at the end of the schematic phase, we will have a pretty good set of drawings. It'll be missing, the nitty gritty details type of thing, and it'll be missing the permitting process. So that will be the next step after the schematics.
Chris, is that survey available?
We have a copy of it. I'm sure I could send it over to you if you need it.
I can swing in sometime and if you could make up a copy or whatever. There isn't an electronic copy.
Well,
There is electronic.
it's all electronic, Dave. I can forward it to you.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
I think the next updates I have, I just want to run through a couple of things on our spreadsheet here with all my notes that I got scribbled on it.
Do you want to open up? Do you want to share your screen or no, Chris?
It's just as easy to read them. It's
Okay.
So let me just start from the top. We talked about the town beach stuff. We're working on getting permitting. So, once money does become available, we could do treatment in the water, but the permitting is a long process, so we're working on getting that started.
He's talking about
Uh,
the permitting to get the weeds treated, guys.
Yep.
We know that's a capital plan project. However, we are really hoping that we can get that started this year. And the permitting process, the permit is good for several years. So even if the capital plan doesn't come through this year, it'll be good for next year. But if you wait to know if we're gonna have capital money or not, then it will be too late for the season.
Let's see. Let me see. Anna, do you think, should I run through each of these, even if there's no update, or what do you think is the best way to run through this?
I think if you share, honestly, I think if you share the screen, then you can quickly do an update and just so the team sees what's going on.
I
Karen,
probably
All right, I
can you
think,
Yeah, let me give you permission, Chris. All right, give it a try, Chris.
all right, I'm just trying to find the, there we go, share screen. And I want to go to this one. Okay. So the next one on the list was the Marshall Pond light posts. The DPW guys are actually the ones that are gonna take this out for me. And I've just been following up with the director just to keep bugging him until we can get that last pole taken care of. The Marshall Pond weeds is the same update as the town beach. It's the same permitting process. So it's, they have to submit between town conservation and the state. It can be up to a 90-day process just if there's no issues. So that's why we're getting that started. The Wallace Park basketball court that's a future capital plan to take care of the service there. The
Chris, can
veteran-
I interrupt for just a second on that Wallace basketball court? Would
Sure.
it be advantageous to crack seal that court sooner rather than later? And then in anticipation of resurfacing, because that thing's cracked everywhere.
Yeah, I did see that. It's I can reach out to the folks that take care of it. I'm sure it's not just a regular asphalt sealing that they do. So I'll reach out to them and get some pricing.
Thank you.
Sorry, just writing a note here.
Chris, were you able to figure out who the original contractor was who resurfaced that for us? Did that stuff
I-
make it to you?
I have
I
not
don't
found-
think we discussed this with Chris, Karen.
No, that's fine. I'm wondering if I need to show up at the DPW and go through old piles of stuff just so you have it.
I dug through all kinds of files that I could find on, the town server, but I haven't seen anything related to the courts at all.
Okay.
I did see one of the nets is missing, so I'm gonna order a new one to replace that, but that's fairly minor. So the next one is the Veterans Park upkeep. I was hoping to have walked a lot of these sites with the landscapers, but as you all know, we got dumped on last week, so it's kind of hard to see a lot of it. But I know the Veterans Park, there's some immediate needs that we have to take care of. Some of the benches aren't too stable anymore. There's all kinds of limbs down from the winter. So we're gonna try and get as much of that taken care of as soon as the snow melts, really. And it's kind of a similar note for all the fields, because I'm basically gonna take the landscaper on a tour of all the properties and as soon as we can see them.
When that our landscaping people, that's the same one that we had last year, correct?
Yes, and
How long
I believe
contract?
they were extended through July 30th of next year.
No,
Okay.
this year.
This year.
This is their
I-
third year.
I have to double check. Somebody had mentioned that it got extended, so I have to double
it-
check.
It did, but remember when you and I were meeting with Heather, she mentioned that we need to put on our RFP for it.
She did, and then somebody else mentioned to me after. I've been working on updating the RFP anyway,
Okay,
but I need to confirm that because I'm not entirely positive of where it really is.
okay.
I would love to get somebody local to town back in that position if the price is right, just because we'll get better service, but
Can we just make sure too that when the next contract is executed, that that maybe the parks portions get run by whether it be me or the whole group or whoever, just somebody that's been here for a while, because when we went through them this past summer, there were just a lot of things in there that didn't match what we actually do or use. Like, you know, our fields are used, say the 90-foot diamond is used for the spring and then the summer, and then it doesn't really get used for the fall, but that's not how it was. If I remember correctly, that's not how it was listed in the maintenance or the original proposal or whatever it's called. So it would be nice if we could just make sure everybody is on the same page, so we're not expending excess money in areas that we don't have to. And
I agree with that, but there are certain, it still needs to be mowed and still needs to be maintained.
yeah,
The
yeah.
longer
Oh,
you
no.
go,
No, I know that. It was just like one of those things where it was like, I don't have it right in front of me to go back and read it, but it was like, you know, say it was however many inches and most X number of times a week. They mow more during the active season. And
Yeah, they should be out there twice a week until
Right.
July, really, and then August is probably once a week, just take care of the weeds.
Yeah, and then like the beach, the beach cleanup was super early, which is fine as long as it gets done, but then the problem is it needs to be redone again, because
Mhm.
last year it just was a mess right before we went to open. So it'd be good if we could just like fine tune some of those date type things so that we're not, creating more work and more opportunities for people to call and complain to us about things.
Yeah, and I'd like to get all that written into the initial scope of all of it as well, so it's contractually they're bound to it, so they can't come back afterwards and balk at it.
Chris, it seems to me there was actually one Parks property that was missing in the original contract. I don't remember. I have Fitzgerald in my mind, but I'm not sure. But there was one complete property that wasn't even listed. It did end up getting maintained, but it wasn't actually in the contract.
I will take a look at that. I don't have that sheet in front of me. It's sitting back in my office, but I know Fitzgerald was on that one. Because that was one of the more expensive weekly mows, just purely because the size of the field.
Least used, most expensive.
Yeah. And on that note, I guess we'll jump to Fitzgerald. I was out there a couple times this week looking at certain things. I guess the first update is the fence is back on and locked. And the sign has been rehung.
Cool.
And as for the lock, as of right now, other than facilities, I'm the only one with the facilities department, the only one with the keys. We'll get some spares made up, and as a facility as a whole, we're going to start a new process of anyone that gets a key gets it signed out. So we know who has the keys, because they're all over the place. And at least that way there's some onus of everyone with the key of, okay, if you're opening the gate, you have to make sure it's closed before someone drives a truck back out there. The other thing I noticed over at Fitzgerald is, I'm not sure the difference between the two fields off the top of my head, but if you're standing at the road, the field that's on the right-hand side there.
It's baseball.
Yeah, so that one's gonna need some good work. Where that gate was open, there's been either erosion or settling, but that whole side of the field, maybe a 20-foot wide strip, the whole length is down very low, and the water flowing through that creek right now it's flowing through the third base dugout. So I think for future plans, we have to address that somehow.
Okay.
And I know there was comments about some other outfield grading, so maybe we can try to combine the repairs when we get around to doing that. The next note was the town beach sand. My goal was to address that after we did the cleanup in the spring, to see how much sand we need and where it needs to be. We talked about the Fitzgerald Field sign. Powell Field, the vandalism damage has been repaired. Again, thank you to the Powell family for that. The only thing left is, once the snow is finally gone, we do need to seed that outfield. And then there's gonna have to be, the field certainly needs some real cleanup over there. So, the infield's full of weeds and all kinds of other stuff that, as soon as we can walk with the landscaper, we will get that on their list. I guess the same really goes for the Marshall Park softball field. Until the snow is gone, there hasn't been anything happening out there.
Chris, do you know if they got that gate closed at the, I think it was left field, outfield at the softball field?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can swing by in the morning and check.
Okay, I walked part way in, but it was rough walking the other day, so I didn't make it that far.
Yeah, it's pretty deep out there.
Yeah, the swing chain was rehung, which I appreciate. That's been down for 2 years.
Yeah, so that one's locked, and I know for sure that Powell Field gate is locked because.
Yep.
But I'll check that in the morning. McNally, we talked about the snack shack. I have not looked at the tree branches yet, but again, I'm going to walk the landscaper through every site we have to address all those issues. Now, Marshall, the 90-foot diamond, I guess, is the fun one today. As I'm sure all of you saw, the net came down on that last storm. The snow got ahead of me in that little football we used to knock off of it. But we're still trying to assess the extent of the damage. Again, the snow covering some of it. The net is intact. The line either stretched or broke partially, and the two poles that hold that up actually bent. So we need to, once we can get to the poles and see if the pole was bent, or I don't know if the concrete foundation started pulling out, but we'll have to assess what we need to do to make sure those can still handle holding that net. Once we do that, my goal is to find some sort of way to put that main line on a pulley system and, like come along, so we don't need equipment to put it up and take it down each year, and we won't run into this again, because truth be told, going out there every time it snows and knocking that snow off the net in the middle of the night is not very fun.
You were doing that?
Well, you all know who my dad is. So
Yeah,
every
I
time
was gonna
it
say, I know your dad was.
Okay, I will reserve my comments and send them directly to Joe.
But believe it or not, I've had to mow the infield with my lawnmower several times over the years. So
We're trying to avoid that from happening. We would like to have a good maintenance program.
I would very much like to avoid it as well. So
Chris, what I'm going to tell you on this net situation, and that just because that net was the first thing I walked into when I became a Parks Commissioner many years ago. We originally had a contract with a company out of Fitchburg to do the work, and they flaked. They completely flaked. So, and I can share that company name offline with you, but I don't remember and if my memory is serving me correct, they had, we paid the money and then they flaked, and then we had to bring somebody else in to finish it up. And I don't remember who that second person is that came in, but it was that field was not usable for, let me rephrase that. It couldn't be used for any sort of batting, not even batting practice, unless they were in a cage for a decent amount of time. And it was at the start of the spring high school season. It wasn't the summer season. It was that spring high school season.
Yep.
So I don't know if you want to try to see about fast tracking some of that, so that, because their season, and it's March 22nd, they're usually out there sometime in April.
Yep, I actually ran into the athletic director from the high school today, and they're practicing indoors. My biggest concern is the structural integrity of the poles. We need to assess that, because the tension on those lines is pretty crazy, actually, how much weight is on those. So I'm just hoping that the damage is minimal and we can use it, because if it's not, we're going to have a real challenge on our hands to get it going quickly. So fingers crossed that as soon as the snow melts, and I know we're looking at warm temps and a lot of rain over the weekend, so I'm hoping come Monday morning, we'll be able to see what we need to. And we also need to get a fencing contractor back out because some of that angled fence, chain link fence fell off the top on the third base side as well.
Chris, when you
So
get
that-
a fence contractor out, there are a couple, I think especially in the softball field, Marshall, there is some concern about the fence there. So you might want to have them.
Yeah, have them look at all of it at the same time. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some damage to the fence on the outfield of Marshall as well, where some branches came down.
Yeah.
That one is not as critical, but it still needs to be taken care of, so.
Yeah, I think, let's see, so keepers. So I think might be like the first many gaps in the fence, like on Marshall Park softball field. Many gaps in the fence around dugouts and center of the field. Looking for his repair, it'll be replaced. Okay, so yeah, so if you have a fence contractor there, you might want to have them take a look at the softball field.
Yep.
Okay. And the next item of the agenda was the foul ball nets, which I guess you
Yep.
just addressed it, so. So I think we're good with that. Does anybody have any questions for Chris, comments?
And I've got one question for Chris, just to follow up to our conversation in the past week or two. Chris, have you figured out where those emails go to when somebody fills out a form from the facilities page for concerns at any one of the properties?
We have, Anna and I actually talked about that earlier today, and we had IT update it, so now I'm included on those emails as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Chris, you good? Chris Sullivan?
I'm good. That was thorough. I appreciate it.
That's good. Pat?
I saw him.
Nope,
Who's that?
I am all set. Thank you.
All
Yes.
right.
And I've got one more real quick one, unless Chris is going to be staying on for the beach discussion.
I was gonna stick
Yeah.
around for the beach discussion, so.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay. All right, so beach discussion, Set Town Beach opening and closing dates. So Karen, why don't you give us the history of this, of what we usually do?
Okay, so for Pat
Chris,
and
if you want to stop sharing, then we can see.
Yeah, I was just looking for that button to stop sharing here. Oh, there it is.
There we go.
okay. Okay, so and Pat, I don't know if you remember from last year. I think you were with us last year. So the way it works is the beach is seasonal, so we have seasonal employees. And our seasonal employees by Mass General Law can only be a certain number of days. I should have looked this up before I came to this meeting. So in the past, what we've done is we have done it for the duration of what we could have a seasonal employee for. And I'm going to look it up in a second to see how many days that is. And we had done that for a couple of reasons. It allowed the beach to open early should something happen and we have staff available. We typically don't, but if the beach needed or wanted to open early on a few weekends, we could. It also allowed the beach staff to go in and prepare for the season if they wanted to prior to the beach opening. And the same thing on the flip side, it allowed them to, it allowed some flexibility for closing, and it allowed for our employees, if we wanted them to say, come and talk to the beach director, to come and talk to the park commission as an employee, then it would allow them to do that in September. Let me see how many, Chris, you don't remember off the top of your head how many days a seasonal employee is, do you?
I don't know, no.
I'll look. 20 weeks. So I think I think last year we opened it either the very beginning of June or the or even
So-
in May. And then
So
we closed in
would-
September.
So the most that we would do is the last the last day would be September 9th, right? That we would ever go.
I would say so, but I'm gonna say what I say every single year. This is all dependent on our employees and what their availability is. And this year alone, 3 of the kids that we are hiring are high school seniors, all 3 going off to college next year. So I don't know when they're gonna leave, nor do I know when our other 3 older lifeguards, Paige, Ethan, and Jared, I don't know what their schedules look like either. I think this past year, didn't we close before Labor Day?
We did, but if I'm
Yeah, I
just
think
walking back,
September 9th would be the latest that we would stay open until.
okay, so 20 weeks. So just by Googling, because we love Google, 20 weeks before September 9th of 2023 is Saturday, April 22nd.
I don't think
So
we,
if,
we don't need to
say
go
again?
that, we don't need to go into April.
right, so I guess we can say May.
So I would recommend going into September. I know that we're saying the latest we'd be open would be September 9th. I would even consider doing the 16th or the 23rd. That way, if we wanted the beach director to come to us as an employee,
Mhm.
we'd have a couple of weeks in there.
So that would be May 6th.
So I say that that Nancy Forrest, who's the one who typically puts this seasonal employee document into the state. I say we request that she put it in from May 6th until, what was that, September 23rd?
Let's say May 8th, because
Okay,
May 8th is a Monday.
okay.
And then you said September 23rd, which is a Saturday. So that September 22nd then.
Okay.
May.
And then,
8th.
but then for opening dates, I would recommend, do you want to set opening dates now? Subject to change, I guess, if need be.
Well, I think we need to get some feedback from Chris Ruth on this. He probably needs to coordinate with the staff and make sure they're available. How about we tell him let's do one step at a time. Can we have a motion to
I
have
will
our,
Yeah, I will make a motion requesting that our seasonal employee application be submitted to the state with the dates May 8th, 2023 through September 22nd, 2023.
can I have a second for that?
Second,
All right, let's do a roll call. Karen,
Yes.
Dave Passios,
Sorry, I had trouble with the microphone. Yes,
all right, thank you. Pat,
Yes.
Chris,
yes.
yes for myself, so that's a yes. Okay. Karen, so with the next thing, how about we tell Chris our wishes for when we would like the beach to be open,
June
and
20,
and then he can try to work with the staff to see if we have it. And then we can set those dates, because if we set the dates, but we don't have the staff, I think it works backwards.
So in years past, we've always opened the Saturday after school ends. The last day of school is the 21st of June this year, as of right now, unless they have more snow days. So I would be thinking that they would be opening somewhere around the 24th of June. And closing, if they stayed open through Labor Day, that would bring us to September 4th. But again, that may not be possible.
Can I throw a wish out there that Chris can see with the staff? See if we can have staff available to open on the weekends in the month of June. So like just open Saturday and Sunday, starting on the first weekend of June. How does the rest of the group feel about that? If they're available,
Be fine by me. Yeah, watch the weather and success, but it's there if we have lifeguards available.
I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea. Because
Okay.
you have those fluctuating days that it'd be a nice day to jump in there if it was open. Because you
right.
always see the people jumping the fence or try, in years past, I've seen them. You drive by and people were there. So, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Dave, do you have any
That-
thoughts on this?
The only thing is that that means that the staff will have to be there at the beach sometime on that first weekend of June or somewhere right around that time to set the beach up, get the rope and all that stuff set up. They usually do that the first weekend.
Yeah. Okay,
And we can put it out there. I mean, everything's gonna be dependent on availability. I know
Right.
Lunenburg High School graduates June 3rd, which means that's gonna knock 4 lifeguards right out of
Right.
the running on that day anyway.
but I mean, the request is for Chris to just check with the staff if it's a chance. And then Chris, last year, when we closed, was actually, we closed the week before school started, which in this year's calendar would have been August 20th. And I understand, kids go back, but again, if we could see if we can have staff available to stay on the weekends all the way through the first weekend of September.
Labor Day, right?
Yeah, after Labor Day, right?
Well,
So
the
like
first
li-
weekend in September is Labor Day.
Oh, okay, so like until September 9th, if we have staff available. Okay,
Yeah, Chris, one other thing that I had a conversation with the beach director at the end of the swim lessons actually last year and towards the end of the season. And maybe you could have this conversation with her when you guys are putting schedules together to see if it's possible. And her concern again was staffing. She felt that there was enough interest if they had the staffing to include another session for swim lessons. All dependent again on staff and timing with the end of the season, so on and so forth.
and
I'm happy to ask. the question, So,
Chris, touching on swim lessons too. So last year we ran a Saturday session, and we had done that before in the first year of COVID. I think it was the year before COVID, and then we had a gap year. I think it was in 21. We didn't have. Last year we got a lot of requests to have a Saturday swim lessons, and people signed up for it. The feedback that the beach director gave was the Saturday swim lessons were not very consistent with attendance. But one thing that I'll say is that, for working parents, that Saturday lesson is the only one that they can attend. And
Yep.
even if they're not consistent attending, it is a benefit for working families because the other two lessons happen in the middle of the day.
Yep.
So, I understand being from the provider side, if you don't see the kids making as much progress as if they were there, but it was beneficial to the residents, and that's kind of our goal, is to really, even if they're not getting 100% of the benefit, if they're getting 60%, it is beneficial for the kids and our residents. So,
yeah, I agree that the Saturday lessons would be great for, anyone that's got two parents working full time. It's tough.
and we actually have quite a few.
Were we full? Were our Saturday lessons full last year?
We opened up
We
20.
Come up late, right?
Yeah, but we had a minimum so we created, I think it was, I don't recall, but we had something like maximum of 30 kids. We're gonna run only if we get up to 20, and we did reach that minimum. So we did get the signups that justified
We ran it,
monetarily.
our Saturday lessons were 2021 and 2022. So the first year I think they were very successful. I think last year, as COVID started to lift, they weren't as, I understand their enrollment and their attendance type stuff. Throwing it out there to you, Chris, too, and I'm happy to have a conversation with the new rec director as well. The Red Cross certifications that we do for swim lessons, that actually has to be applied for. And it's a pain in the neck because apparently the town of Lunenburg doesn't have a credit card and they wouldn't take a purchase order or whatever it is. So like last year, they expected our rec director to pay for it off of his card. And he wasn't comfortable with that. I wasn't comfortable with him doing that. So town manager ended up putting it on her card. It just added like a layer of complexity to it. So we just need to remember that it's going to need to be applied for. And I think it has to be done earlier than, like, I don't think it's one of those things you can apply for the day before swim lessons start and get it approved in time. I think it's got to be done prior to that. So that's just the,
Just to clarify, is it the class to train them they need to apply for, or just to
No.
even have?
it's in order to offer the types of swim lessons that we've had in the past, it's the Red Cross. They get like a
Yep.
little card at the end. So it's basically registering with the Red Cross to be able to hold swim lessons.
That then the kids get a little card?
Yep, they get a card at the end. And I'm assuming that there's some sort of manual that they get that, tells them how each thing is supposed to, each level is supposed to run or whatever. But honestly, it's above my pay grade because when Jen Nass was here, she took care of all of that. And I didn't even know she was paying for it, like out of pocket. For years, she paid for it and never asked the town for reimbursement.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy. And I'm like, no, wait a second. No, we need to reimburse you for that. And then she started to get reimbursed. And then we brought in a rec director. So it didn't need to be, the beach director didn't need to be the one to apply for it now that we had a rec director. And that just it wasn't as smooth just because, like I said, the town of Lunenburg apparently doesn't have a credit card. So, it's just, I don't know, but just so it's on somebody's radar.
Yep, no,
So-
I appreciate the heads up, and
The three beach things that I think are fairly time sensitive are gonna be the seasonal employee piece, which Nancy Forrest does. Anna, are you gonna notify, who's gonna notify her?
I had spoken with
Julie Belleville?
Julie, and
Okay.
Julie asked for the dates that we
Okay.
were,
So you'll reply to that, then it's gonna be the Board of Health stuff, which I think Chris is on, and then it's the Red Cross stuff. So those are the three key things in order to operate the way we've.
So we're on
operated.
top of the Board of Health. That was gonna be my question related to the beaches, the Board of Health emails we've gotten a couple of times here.
yep, they reached out, and now that we've confirmed, who the staff is, because they were looking for contacts. And it was
And-
kind of,
Sort of circle and back up as we're talking about Board of Health, Chris Ruth. Do we handle it all yet on porta potties coming in at Marshall Park? Any of our parks?
have not looked into that yet.
Okay.
I know the Board of Health had an issue at one point because someone did it without notifying them.
Yeah,
Um,
so they have to, so do you have our policy on the porta potties?
I have copies of all the policies. I don't have any of it in front of me.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure you have it. So our policy sort of mimics what the Board of Health put out, and the Board of Health put theirs out because they reacted to some stuff that had happened a few years ago. So they're supposed to apply to the Board of Health in order to put their portables in. They're supposed to provide the Parks Commission and the Board of Health copies of, and I say they, meaning baseball, because they're the ones that typically bring it in. They're supposed to provide copies of their contracts, including their service and maintenance agreements with them. They need to show a location of where they're putting it, and they're supposed to have all of this stuff approved by you before they deliver it. And last year that didn't happen, and the Board of Health had them removed.
Okay.
One thing I'd bring up about that was the issue that we ran into last year of, so I don't know if it's happening this year, they shared the porta potty with the baseball and softball teams, I
So-
think, at the school.
you disappeared.
And
Chris.
so
There you go.
placement of the porta potty last year was not at all convenient, or placement of at least one of the porta potties was not at all convenient for the 90-foot diamond. And so the issue we ran into was kids dipping into the woods and up the
That was a
hill on the
conversation
other
I never
side to
thought we'd have.
not have that. So if that is the intent, that baseball and Little League and Babe Ruth are all going to share a porta potty again this year, just reminding them to be mindful of where it's placed, that we're avoiding that issue this year.
So, when I reached out to Rob Rabuccio, the coach for the, Chris, you keep disappearing, so just, you know. It's
I
like you're
do?
wearing, yeah, it's like you're wearing a invisible cloak or something. Oh,
Oh, yeah,
there you
look at
go.
That's
There
weird.
you go. So when I reached out to Rob Rabuccio, asking him for what kind of maintenance the 9-foot diamond needed, he replied with the list that's there, Chris, Ruth,
Yep.
and he mentioned portable parties. And I replied to him saying, you know, as a policy, we don't offer those. The Parks Commission doesn't place those in the field. However, let me put you in touch with the new president of the Little League. And so I sent them both an email. I shared with them the policy. And I did mention that last year, if that was going to be a cost sharing, I do remember last year the location was very inconvenient. So I'll let them figure out. So anyway, the short is they were put in communication and mentioned to, if they're sharing costs, make it convenient for the high school.
Yeah, we'll have to coordinate the porta potties as well. If the skate park does start this year, they're gonna have a bunch of porta potties around their construction sites. We'll have to coordinate and make sure we're keeping all that separate, because that could get ugly quickly.
I don't
Chris,
think,
I would assume that'll be within their containment fences, won't it?
I would assume so, and I still need to coordinate all that with them, but I know, I come from the construction world. You certainly don't want to be sharing porta potties with, a construction site we'll just leave it at that.
Chris, I believe they're planning to do, if they're going to break ground, which they're hoping they will, it'll probably be more of in the fall. So.
Okay, that'll eliminate some of that.
Some of that, yeah, okay. All right, Chris, if you could stay for the next conversation, because we might tap into a little bit. So are we all set with the Town Beach opening and closing dates? Chris, if you could, once you talk with the staff and you tell them our wishes, if you could email me, or you can even email the whole group, like what you were able to coordinate. Like, you know, I always say we're the business of serving our customers, and, you know, the more that we can do, the better it is. So,
Yep, I'll update you as soon as I get some dates figured out.
okay, so,
Honor, I've got one more very quick thing for Chris, just to verify. So on the Board of Health certification for the beach, you're all set on that with contacting Kara, so on and so forth. I
Yep,
just want
yeah, I
you
was
to
just-
be aware that I responded to the email because the second one came through as if nobody had been in touch with her. And I just assured her that the communication would start after this meeting.
Yep, it will for sure, and it was, it didn't get forwarded to me until, I forget what day, but then it got forwarded to me 3 times, so it's
Okay.
three different people had sent it over, so.
You want me to send it too?
If you want, it'll be at the top of my
No.
email then.
No, I told Anna to send it over, so I don't think I need to have you have it for the 4th time.
okay, so Earth Day, so I don't know if you all recall last meeting on the chair update, I talked about how the Conservation Commission, I'm gonna share my screen, had reached out to me, Mary Wilson. And we talked about maybe doing something together between conservation and conservation and the Parks Commission. And this is what we came up as really a cleanup, which was what we did a few years back. So I created a little a banner, and I'm just going to go through everything. So basically, what we are saying to people is, let's sign up to help us clean up some of the properties. This here are the properties and the projects that they have, that the Conservation Commission has. The Lane property, the Northwest Town Forest, Table Rock, Proctor Park, and Pollinator Habitat. And they will have a coordinator for each of these. And these are the days and the shifts that they will have those days, those projects happening. And the goal, it will be to for us to come up with our list of projects, us to come up with, who's going to lead that one project or that one shift. And I would then add to this form. And then we're gonna put this on social media. And this is also going to go on the ledger. And the conservation is going to help us share, like the snow riders, probably the teen center, the Boy Scouts. She's already communicated with the Boy Scouts. So what's left for us to do is, do we want to do an Earth Day cleanup like we did a few years back? What can you coordinate? When we did it the last time, I believe the EPW gave us trash bags, and then they came by and picked it up. Chris today told me that we can manage to organize that with the town. So anyway, so that's what I had promised. That's what Mary and I talked. She has seen this banner. Once we have, I'm going to create different versions of this banner to be the ledger ad, and also to fit like social media, have the right size for social media. So what are your thoughts, you all?
Anna, Dave Passios.
Go ahead, Dave.
Chris and I have actually had a brief conversation, both Chris's actually. Chris Sullivan, previous to me, discussing it with Chris Ruth. I'd like to put Wallace Park
Okay.
on the list. The primary goal is to spruce up the playground, but we could also clean up the wooded area and what other else could be cleaned up there. Originally, I had a grandiose scheme that we would update the bark mulch or the wood chips. That's a little bit too extensive for this type of a project, and
Okay.
Chris and I talked about that could be done at a future time, and I believe I can get it the cost of that covered through donations at a future date.
What day and what shift can you lead this project?
It'd be on Earth Day, which
When
is
is
what,
Earth
April
Day?
22nd, I believe it is. It's a Saturday.
Okay, April 22nd. And what time? Because and the reason I'm asking Dave is so I can put it like, I got feedback from, once Mary saw this.
Yep.
She sent me feedback, and I'm just gonna share because I'm gonna make those changes to the form.
While you're doing that, just so everybody knows, I have contacted the Lions Club, and I think they will be supplying snacks and drinks on that day. Cold drinks if it's warm, and warm drinks if it's cold.
So I'll share this here. So Mary added to the lists that we have, she added a couple more dates. And she also asked me to, can I do my second one? Yeah. And she also told me to add the dates and the time on the bottom part. So I just want to say that I'm going to make those changes to the form. So
Yeah.
what time, Dave?
I was going to ask Chris Sullivan if you remembered what the times were for the basketball court at Marshall, because I think that would be a good indicator as to what times we might want to do Wallace Park. And did those times work out for you?
So I when I did Earth Day a couple years, I wasn't actually stationed anywhere. I was running between the various sites, but there was a group. I think it was Project. I had to go back and look. I think it was Project 360. A group of kids that came and because they came from all over the kind of all over the area. We had kids from like Methuen and a little bit west of us, and there was a whole slew. But I think it was like 9 to 12. Dave was the Marshall deal. It was
Yeah.
a couple of few hours in the morning.
Yeah.
With and I kind of kicked them off and got them rolling. We took half the kids down to, they got started at Marshall and half the kids went down to, whatchamacallit, I'm having a brain fart, the baseball field down the street.
Marshall?
No,
Paul?
at, next to Wallace.
Oh,
McNally.
Oh,
McNally.
McNally, that's. I
McNally,
remember
thank you.
that.
I keep, yeah. So half the kids went down to McNally. Sorry, I was having a,
And we
Brain
could
fart there.
actually do, if we don't have a specific project at McNally, but if we get a large crowd signed up for Wallace, we could potentially do that also. Just go down for a general cleanup, pickup of whatever. And I'll
yeah,
have
the number of kids that were there, we split it into two and just kind of was stick cleanup and, you know, some trash and things like that
Yep.
that we had gotten rid of.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Okay, Dave, so 9 to noon, the playground, Wallace, and around the wooded area, April 22nd, 9 to 12, okay. Does anyone else wants to, Veterans Park, Pat, like, that needs a little TLC there.
I might be able to get into Veterans Park like on the 8th. After the 8th, I don't think soccer is going to start on the 8th.
Okay,
So I think for the 8th, I could probably get down to Veterans.
and, okay,
Then after,
veterans, so
yeah.
this is Dave, okay. Veterans. I was thinking maybe you were gonna do Marshall again, Chris. Veterans, Chris. All right. And what time, Chris?
It would likely be in the morning, not like 9.
9 to
You know.
12, okay.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it's probably
that's
gonna be a
April
couple
8th?
hours, you know, 9 to 11 or something like that on the 8th. Probably should be okay.
9 to 11?
I don't know if it'll take more than a couple hours. And we can say
Okay.
9 to 12, but if we're done. That's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
April
say 9 to
8th.
12. Yeah.
Okay.
You got the
All right.
playground close by, Chris, too, also. So if you finished up early, you could probably skip over there and take a look around if anything needed to be spruced up.
Karen, do you have any projects you want to take?
I have a million projects, but I don't think I want to commit this spring since I'm in the throes of wedding planning.
Okay. All right. Pat, do you wanna take lead on one?
I really can't commit right now until we get a lacrosse schedule going.
Okay.
And if I can, I'll definitely help Chris out at Veterans. If I can't like lead one,
Okay.
I'll definitely come down and help Chris out with that one.
April, okay. I was going to sign up for near the Pound and Pond. And let me look at my schedule, because the Pound inside actually usually needs cleaning up. And let me switch my calendar so I can.
That one there, the Boys and Girls Club went down and tackled that whole corner. Not inside the fence, but they did all the outside. That
Oh,
was
okay.
kind of their deal. And I don't remember if they went there on trying to remember if it was a weekend day or they went like on a day the club was open.
Okay.
I don't remember. It might have been a weekend day. I think it was like the younger kids weren't down there. It was the
Okay.
counselors and stuff.
So for me, I'm probably gonna do, I have a couple events coming up. So for me, it's probably gonna be early on in April too. Dave, one thing I'll mention to you about your date, that's the beginning of school vacation, okay? I don't know if you have
Yeah.
connections.
Yeah, that's fine. I still think we'll draw enough people to do what we're gonna do over there. It's not a
22nd is
not
the
a major project.
it's
Okay,
the last weekend on a
say it
vacation.
again?
He's doing it April 22nd.
Yeah.
That's the tail
The
end, yeah.
last tail end.
No, I thought it starts on the 22nd.
It starts on the 17th to
You
the,
probably know better because you probably have kids. Okay. So I would probably do it on a Sunday. So I'm thinking for me, it will either be the 9th or the 2nd. All right. Chris, how did you get in touch with the Projects 360?
Truthfully, I didn't.
Okay.
They reached out.
Okay.
And said, I have, and I think it was 20 something kids that parents drove from all over the place and dropped their kids off for a few hours with a stranger from the park commission.
Oh, that's
Off we went.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
But I believe there's a I don't know who the contact is at the school, but there's a Project 360 rep at the school, but they have.
at the
let's see.
Lunenburg schools?
Yeah, I think someone at the school is involved with it. But it was like the girl that brought everybody and organized it was not from, she was not from Lunenburg. She was a
Okay.
student. I can't remember what school she was from.
Okay. All right. I know the Little League has a cleanup weekend too. I'm gonna get in touch with them and make them part of this project, because if they can get people to help them when they're cleaning up, doing some of their work, why not? So, all right. And Chris, Ruth, do you think you can see with Bill about these trash bags that they used a couple years ago?
Yeah, I'll touch base with Bill tomorrow and kind of come up with a plan for him of, I don't know if it was just contractor bags. I'm guessing they didn't use the town Lunenburg
were.
bags.
No, they were they were contractor bags.
Were they yellow or they?
Some brown. He had some leaf bags, some trash bags, and mixed between leaf bags and but they weren't the school. I'm sorry, they weren't the town trash bags. They were contractor bags for trash, and then for all the other debris went in. We used the vast majority of what was used was leaf bags at Marshall and at Wallace and so forth.
right.
A lot of it was leaf bags.
I'll touch base
Chris-
with Bill in the morning, come up with a plan.
Okay, Chris Sullivan, how tools that they use for like raking and all? How did
We
you
asked
guys
people,
do?
we asked people to bring them.
Okay,
Yeah.
bring your tools.
and FYI, I think it's project,
Bring tools.
I think it's
not
project
360.
351.
Yes, that's the one. I knew it was a number. Thank you.
Okay, 351.
As
that's-
I was sitting here Googling and I'm like, that's not Project 360. What the heck's the number?
So,
Anna, for Wallace Park, you can put me down as the contact person too, if people have
oh,
questions.
Dave, you are already the contact person for that. Don't worry about that.
Okay,
But thank you for confirming.
yep.
Before
Um,
we're about to let Chris go, are we not?
We are, so
I just asked
let me
you-
just, can
Yeah.
I just finish this? All right, so here's the plan. I'm gonna enter these projects there. I'm gonna reach out to baseball and ask them when they're going to do it, so I'll add it here. And then we'll start blasting this information out, so if you all could share on social media, try to get people in, to sign up. Basically, you just go to the form and answer when you're available, and then the idea is you coordinate with the people that sign up for that. So Dave, what you would receive is a list of names and the number of people they're gonna bring and an email contact for them.
Okay, great.
And then you coordinate with them and be in touch with them and so forth. I'll get information from Chris about bags and I'll confirm locations. And we can go from there. Like, I'll keep that communication going. And I think that's all the details. The flyer is on the meeting folder. If you have any feedback, please do so this week because it's going to be published on the Ledger next week. All right, so Karen Menard, sorry, I just wanted to wrap that up.
No, it's fine. This is sort of unrelated, but there's a window that is boarded up down at the snack shack at Marshall.
Yep.
There's no plans on replacing it with a window, correct?
I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. I've heard it's been broken a few times, so.
I don't
was-
want you to. So this is sort of why I'm bringing it up. I'm wondering what everybody thinks of, right now it's just an unfinished piece of plywood. And it obviously looks like it's been patched up. I'm wondering what everybody thought of maybe me reaching out to the high school art program and see if we gave them the size and provided them with a board. I'm wondering if we could have somebody paint like a small mural type thing, you know, welcome to Marshall Park, just to replace that unfinished board until, and if it's there forever, it's there forever, but at least it would look finished versus boarded up.
How big is
support
the
that.
window that's broken? I haven't actually gone over and looked at that one.
Probably, it's a standard size window. It's not as. Dave, what would you say? 4
I
by,
was just gonna say 26, 24 by 36, something like that.
that's not huge.
I mean, the other option would be, you know, I could send one of the guys down to Home Depot or something and get a piece of Lexan cut that you could sit there and throw rocks at it all day and it wouldn't break.
We're in Lunenburg, it will break.
I mean, you try pretty hard.
It was
Use
as
that
we were
stuff on
talking,
windshields on race cars, you know, it's pretty.
it
it's pretty
doesn't matter. I just was throwing it out there just because I know that it currently just looks like it was a busted window.
Yeah.
So,
I don't see a functional reason for that window, to tell you the truth, Chris, and it did get
Okay,
replaced a couple times, and then finally they just boarded it over because it got broken so many times.
fair enough.
Okay, all right. Well,
Thank Chris.
thank you, Chris.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And I will be in touch once I get some
Uh,
updates.
Anna and Chris, are you guys, I know Anna's aware of this. Chris, are you aware of the request from the Leominster School Department?
Is that for
Trout.
the trout? Yes,
Yes.
I'm aware of it now. I need to dig into it a little bit later this week and, yeah, I'll take a look and I'll touch base with Anna and let everyone know what's going on.
Okay, just to give you again an update, because I was concerned about if anybody was gonna get back to her. I gave her my cell phone number and I had a conversation with her over the weekend. And,
I'm gonna be right back while they've talked.
yep, not a problem. I had a point to make and you just blew it.
Talk to her.
Basically, I told her that I would bring it up at this meeting and that we would have better answers and communication for her after this meeting. I did suggest that she verify with her principal that the school district's liability will cover the kids while they're on this field trip, so on and so forth. So I'll just pass it off to you from there. And Matt Morrow is interested in attending. He's done it in the past, and that's who it was done through in previous years when they did use the beach.
Yeah, I'll touch base with them. The other thing I wanted to just confirm is make sure we're not getting into trouble with conservation or anything like that by introducing any fish into the water. So I'll confirm all that everything's in line and we're good to go. And
This is a grant program from the Mass Fishing Game, and they have the permit to release them at will.
okay, all right, perfect.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks. Well, since Anna's MIA, let's, next item on our agenda, folks.
All right, guys. Well, I got to get out of here.
Thank
So
you, Chris,
thanks,
appreciate
everybody.
it.
Chris, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have their agenda up?
I do.
Notice of intent filing for the.
Yeah, it's the skate park, notice of intent.
Okay, so let's do this, if everyone's all right with it, since Anna's not there. There she is.
here.
We're gonna do it anyway, even though Anna's not here, because it's gonna be something we're skipping over. There should be an agenda item on there on naming of properties.
Number
um,
10.
Yep, so I worked a little bit on that today. I'm not quite ready to throw anything at you guys yet. I need to explore a couple of different avenues that I just didn't have time for today. We just got trustworthy internet back or consistent internet back today when Comcast came. So if we can skip that agenda item, that would be awesome.
We'll skip that agenda item. if
Then we're
everybody's
good. You
okay
can
with
have
that.
your meeting back and you can skip number 10 on the agenda now.
Okay. All right, so the notice of intent filing site plan for Lunenburg Skate Park. This is an update I did sign that document because they had a deadline for today. And that document is saved in the saved on the meeting folder, and all that it does is just, it's the permit for them to start the permitting with the Conservation Commission. They don't need, it turns out they won't need a building permit because there is not a structure according to the building inspector, and they're not going to need to file a site plan according to Adam Burney. So this is pretty much the only permit that they would need in order to construct the park. I signed it because I didn't want to delay their process for a whole month. And this is just, it doesn't give them rights on anything. But I did want to share the documentation with
They have
everyone
a
else.
typo on Lunenburg Skate Park Inc. Just on page 4. It's SKAET. In case
Do you
that
want to
matters.
send an email to Greg Roy?
Sure, yeah, that's fine. I don't know if that matters
What is-
or not.
What
but
page was it on? I can tell him right now. I have it right. I have him right in front of me.
Page 4. Just like the general information page, it's like the organization name, it says SKAET instead of ATE.
What does it say? SK?
AET.
Okay, thanks.
I'm not
You-
even
you're
seeing
letting-
where
you
that
let him know?
is.
Yep, I'm letting him know right now.
Okay. They actually had listed that they were gonna follow the rules and regulations for the town of Groton. So
Oh,
yeah, so they fixed that. So I didn't catch that one. So that's good.
Actually, you want to tell them too, Karen, commission is spelled wrong?
where?
Right below where skate park is spelled wrong.
Commission?
Yeah, there's 2 S's in commission. There's only one listed there. He did spell his name right.
All right, so, but he wants you to know you spelt your name right. All right, sent.
Okay. And that's not the page that I signed, so they're good. Um, All right, as also an update to on skate park, because it's somewhat related. Karen and I had met with town council about the right of entry. He did the first draft, and I talked with Greg Roy about this. In order to facilitate, so everything that we have called as a commission is what Karen and I relate to town council. The document, he's supposed to present a document that represents that information. So we already discussed what we wanted. Town manager had requirements regarding insurance and insurance values and so forth. So town council is putting that document together. Once that document is finalized, the best way to do this, to be the quickest way for the skate park, it would be have town council communicate with skate park and them sort that out. Like, this is the document, this is and that, I agree to this, I don't agree to that. And then town council can come back to us saying, this is what they agree to, this is what they don't agree to, and here are the risks of going this path or not. And then we can deliberate on that. But this would be the fastest way for skate park to sort this thing, because any decisions we make or anything else we add or discuss, it still needs to go vetted by them, by town council, and what would be the risks. So if they negotiate the language and all those things, it'll be much faster for us. And I think because this is a conversation we've been having for a couple of years. Karen and Chris were the ones that presented to town council last year. I don't think we added much this year, Karen. It was
No.
pretty much what was there. So there's nothing different than what we said. We have concerns about the site not being finished, ways to take care of that. So that's all. And I also talked with Greg Roy about two things that we have talked about it. One is maintenance. We have asked them you need to tell us what maintenance looks like. And he said there are in the part of the project that he can actually write up about that. And I also asked him about tell us which standard they're going to use for concrete. Now, when we talked about building standards with the town council, he said, you can put a standard there. You can say you need to meet these standards, but you can't tell them how to do it. But putting a standard, it could be doable. Once I start looking about concrete standards and what to do and blah, blah, there are about, I'm not going to say a million, but there are several different industry standards that can be used. So what I talked with Greg Roy was, instead of us picking one that we don't know if it's used by whoever's going to work for them, why don't you tell us which standard you're going to use and we vet that? And he agreed to that as well. So that way we are not imposing a standard that's not the one they're going to use. Any questions, thoughts, comments about all of this?
Yeah, Anna, could I interject a couple of things real
You
quick?
can speak, you're not even interjecting, Dave.
What's that?
You can speak, you're not interjecting.
Oh, okay. Let's see, the meeting I attended at the, middle high school, that the boys interacted with their design team. I made the comment during that meeting that it would be extremely helpful, and I believe it's going to be incorporated in the design proposal that comes from that group, to have the periodic maintenance schedule going forward for the park they designed for the kids. And he was appreciative of that, because he said most places they build it and then they never do anything to it. But I said, if we have the specifications for upkeep, then we have a way to, bring it before the town and say, this is what needs to get done. So that, I believe that will be part of the proposal that the kids will be getting from their design team.
Great, that's great. That's right in line with what Greg and I talked, so that's great.
Right, and I think those guys too will probably give give Greg the standard for the concrete, because they build these things all over the country and they design them all over the country.
Right. And that's why I thought it would be detrimental to the project if we determine a standard.
Exactly.
But it'll be important for us to know what the standard is.
I agree.
All right. Any other comments, questions, thoughts, concerns? No. Okay. So hopefully by next month, if everything goes well, we'll have a document in front of us that has been agreed with by both parties. All right, number 8, Marshall Park renovation project funding update. So part of what Select Board asked us to do when we come to present to them is to tell them how we are planning to fund the project. And I don't know if you all remember, I said that's a town manager thing. So I met with town manager before I went on vacation, so about a week and a half ago, and we discussed, do we phase this? Meaning, do we go into town meeting multiple times, looking at the grants that we have researched and their values, the possibility of the state grants and ARPA funds. And I'm going to add something else. I also printed an email and I dropped it on the meeting folder. It's an email that I received today. I think I did that. Which is was an email from
Heather? To the state earmarks email? Is that the one?
Yeah, that one. Can you read that for us, Chris? Because I lost my
Sure.
folder.
So it's today from Heather, looks like.
Yeah,
Says I'm reaching out to follow up with a request each of you submitted to the select board considering their meeting. That the select board considered at their meeting last night when putting together a list of projects to submit to the delegation as request for fiscal year 24 state budget. Below is the final list of projects that was submitted to our legislators in no particular order. One is security upgrades identified in fiscal year 24 capital plan for Turkey Hill Elementary and the primary school. 160,000, 131,000, and 83,500 respectively for the three projects. Although there's only two,
I know.
it's only two schools listed there. But anywho, number two, Marshall Park funding, 250,000. Library exterior paint for 36,000 and sewer pump station upgrades for 300,000. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the time in submitting the projects for consideration. And if I receive any news on projects that were submitted to our legislators, I will reach out to the respective departments. Sincerely, Heather.
Just to clarify that 86,000, I'd have to look back at the capital list, but I believe that's the clear film that they had wanted to put on the inside of the windows. Capital planning was not real keen on it, but I believe that's what the 86,000 is. That's
Yeah,
for both schools.
A film they're
okay.
put on the windows? Okay.
Yeah,
So anyway, well, first of all, let me just say I'm super thrilled that that select board and the town manager decided to add $250,000 for that for state earmarks. I wrote a very passionate email to them all, and I sent it that we as town residents we spend probably at least 40% of our gross income straight up to taxes, and the town middle class, we cannot afford to do all these projects on our own. We send a lot of money out, and we're supporting the town on our own pretty much. If we look the type of funding we get from the state it's peanuts comparing to what we pay as a collective, as a town. So anyway, so I appreciate the select board requesting the 250 and pushing that. But back to my conversation with town manager, we talked about the possibility of going into town meeting and request funds for different phases, one at a time. And the problem that we have with that is that would increase the amount of work quite a bit for us internally. Because every time we do that is a new bid, is a new funding, is the whole RFP process it's big and it's time consuming, and managing the construction. And we have some smaller phases, that's 86,000, which is the little pocket park. It'll be easier for us to manage the construction, especially because we are not a town that has a lot of staff. It will be easier if we just put a submission for full funding. And her suggestion was to do similar to what we did with the pavement plan, which is, although the town gives the one okay at town meeting, we don't draw that money all at once. You go in as you need it, and then you phase it accordingly that way. So, but we just go to town meeting once. And so far so good with everyone?
yeah, it's
Okay.
basically an authorization up to $1, maximum dollar amount is probably what it will be. It's kind of like a bank account that you can draw from that's been appropriated by town meeting.
Right. So the second part to that is she was going to reach out to the town's financial planner, asking, how can we do this? And based on what she looked at our expiring debt, she believes there is a chance that we can have this be funded not fully funded, but have this authorization that, just as Dave described, not in town meeting of 2023, but town meeting of 2024. So, in short, as it looks like we can have, there is a possibility that we request this authorization to fully fund the project, town meeting 2024 for FY 2025, 2026, and 2027. And what the goal will be is to get that funded and make the financial planning so that we are not needing a debt exclusion vote. We're just using credit that we already have. So that's what she's working with her financial planner. And that would be the ideal scenario for us, and I think for the town, because at that point we can say, we are going to fund this, and here is enough time that we can apply for the grants that we said we will. We can apply for whatever we're going to do. So when we go to town meeting, we can say, this is what we did, this is what we got, and now we're looking for funding for the whole project. It's not going to be all at once, it will be phased, but this is what you're gonna get. And we are not going to be adding any more to anyone's taxes, because we are going to be using the debt ceiling that we already have, because we have expiring debt over the next 5 years. So anyway, what are people's thoughts on this?
Anna, I'm a little bit confused. Are you talking about this would be excluded debt over 3 years? Because you're saying expiring debt, so usually expiring debt is excluded debt that's paid off. And then you get an authorization for excluded debt again for a different purpose.
So I'm not familiar with all the terms, so forgive me for not using, but
Yeah.
the goal is to not need the 2/3 vote at town meeting and a ballot vote.
Okay, it
It's-
sounds like it's not excluded debt though. Okay,
It's to
That's
use the
what it
debt
sounds like.
ceiling. Say it again?
that's what it sounds like to me. If you don't need a 2/3 vote, it must not be excluded debt.
It's a debt that we would use what we already have as part of our tax, I don't know what the term is, but as part of our allowing borrow that we have, whatever. I think you
Yeah.
get it. So,
Yeah.
and if you have a better way to explain, Dave, with the correct terms, I would appreciate.
No, because I'm not 100% sure what she's talking about, but I think we just need to be sure that, be careful if she is talking about excluded debt, replacing paid off excluded debt with new excluded debt. That's always been a tough sell unless it's, although Marshall Park might be one of those that you could sell very easily that way. It sounds like it's short-term borrowing and within the actual budget rather than adding to the tax bills of the taxpayers.
Right, because anything that it gets added, it needs to go to the 2/3 vote plus and the ballot, yeah.
Yes, yeah, correct.
So she's working with her financial planning. I had hoped that we would have that reply from her today, that we could say, here's what the town manager said we can do, and I could present it to you all. But I don't have that information, but she said that we would have it by the end of the week. So that's the really good news that I hear, is that she sees the value of the project for the town, that she actually said, if we can't do it one way, we should do it with the 2/3 vote, whatever the correct
Yeah.
term is.
Right.
So I actually thought it was a big thing that she thinks is a project that's worth that we should plan it for FY 25 to have this project fully funded and have a plan, even if it's not all in year one, it would be over the next 3 to 5 years. So my dream is comes let's see, 2026, we have a brand new park. I don't know. It's doable if we keep dreaming and working. Any questions with that? Any feedback?
Anna, one other quick thing that keeps coming to mind, has anybody approached Laurie Trahan or looked into federal government funding? I mean, we've, definitely let our state representatives know that, this project is well supported and we need the money. But how about on the federal side?
In the communication I had with Michael Ray Jaffrey,
Yep.
he did ask Heather to do that.
Okay,
Once we have the schematic designs, that's going to buy us a lot of time with a lot of different organizations and including the state.
Yep.
It really shows like this is a real project, it's not an idea. So,
yeah, that's the big thing. If you got a shovel-ready project and people have money they want to throw at something, that's the first
Right.
direction they go.
right. And one of the reasons that I asked Karen about the naming policy is, we can, as a separate thing, but we can start going to local businesses and if we agree and say, hey, do you want to have a booth named after your business? Here, give us this X amount of money. So we can do that as well. So imagine Main Street Bank having a announcer's booth named Main Street Bank. That's gotta be worth for something for them.
How about Main Street Pavilion?
I like that too. So that's, so that's the idea, but I do want to have the naming policy in place because that can be something we can do anytime as this project rolls out. Okay, so with that said, once I get that information, moving on to the next item on the agenda, once I get that information from town manager, which she said it would be before the end of this week, I would like to schedule our ARPA meeting with the select board. So going through this again, what are everyone's availability for the month of April on Tuesdays?
So are they meeting over vacation the week of the 18th? Do you know what what that meeting last night was?
Yeah, I think they said they're not because it's Michael Ray Jaffrey's birthday.
No, his birthday's the 25th. And
Oh,
they
I'm
are,
sorry.
that's okay. They are gonna meet on the 25th. And I know that because I'm gonna be at a meeting with them on the 25th. So I guess I'm just throwing that out there that I'm
Oh,
not
what are we doing, Karen?
stormwater issues on Flat Hill and Page Street.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm throwing it out there that I'm not sure that they're meeting on the 18th. I could be
Okay.
wrong, but,
I
so
don't know. So
I'm available anytime.
any Tuesdays, okay. How about you, Pat?
I can do the 4th, the 18th, or the 25th. I can't do the 11th.
Okay. All right. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, earlier in the month is safer for me. I'm waiting for confirmation on a date that may be late April or early May, and after that point, I will be unavailable for at least 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay. How about you, Chris Sullivan?
I want to say the 4th would be safe right now. I am waiting on soccer. So I
Okay.
don't know coaching schedules yet. I don't know when fields are released yet, but I'm the only coach for the team.
Okay.
So I don't know, but
Okay.
certainly the 4th, I believe, should be
Safe.
safer.
Okay.
Because I don't think soccer will start the 8th. So
All right. Okay. So I need to get that information from Heather first because that financial picture needs to come from her. But I was excited, like when she agreed to, I'm gonna just say this again, when she agreed that it will be best to just fund this project one way or the other and next year's town meeting, I was very excited, but I didn't do happy dance in front of her, but I was that excited. I mean, it's really like, it's a really good project, and I think her and everyone in town sees the benefit and the value for the entire town. So, you know, it's hard. It's an easy sell, but it's because we've done a good job showing the value. Okay, next item of the agenda would have been the 10, discussing the rights. We're gonna skip over that. Then discussing on town beach used by education institution. That was a Dave Passios request.
Yeah, I think Karen's got in mind how we do this so that we don't have to come back each time to authorize use for educational purposes such as the fish release that hopefully is coming up in April. Karen, did you have something in mind as to how to word this so that
So I have an idea. I guess I'm not 100% sure on the wording, but I'm happy to give it a stab. So right now I'm trying to, let me see if I can pull it up. Give me 1 sec to pull up the drive that had our folders in it. Let's see.
Did anyone else not get that fish email, by the way? 'Cause I
You
did
didn't?
not. I did not get that email. And
Okay,
I see that I saw the email in the file and it said, because Dave asked me if I had it and I said, nope. It does. So I'm it looks like it came to the parks email. So I'm just wondering if I'm missing other
yeah,
emails
that
too.
first name again ahead of the parks email, what was that? Do you remember seeing that, Anna? Anna
Mhm.
Petrie or something like that?
Oh, yeah, but I don't think that's me.
Yeah, okay.
So, I am sending an email to parks@lunenburgma.gov. And if you received this email, please reply that you received.
Mine just came.
And
I did
if you-
receive it.
okay, if you don't receive, let
got
me
that.
know. You got it? Okay, how about you,
Yep.
Karen?
I'm looking right now.
Okay.
Of course, my machine's gonna be slow to open.
That's okay. If you want to keep looking your other thing.
I have the other thing open and ready, so
Okay.
let me just check this. Feel like
Look in your junk emails. It seems to me mine transferred in there somehow. I actually read it one day on my phone and then all of a sudden I couldn't find it and I found it. in
I
Good
the
got
idea,
junk.
you.
Dave. I didn't look there. Oh yeah,
I-
look at that. There it is.
Yes.
Good idea, Dave.
Yep.
Thanks. That's where it is.
So I got your test and then,
Yeah, I think
Um,
mine did the same thing because I had it on my list and now I can't find it. So
Okay,
I'm gonna
I'm
assume
gonna
that's
let
where it went.
the IT know that emails that we're sending ourselves are going to spam.
No, your email didn't.
well, your email didn't go
Brook
to
Trout,
spam.
the
No,
Brook Trout
I-
email that I got was.
Yeah,
in
the
my junk
brook
mail.
trout. I got, I
Okay.
remember reading it just like Dave. And now that we're trying to go back and look at it, I can't find it. So it must
Okay.
like automatically go into it.
And it could be because of that first email address ahead of Parks.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't either. By the way, is everybody aware of what that whole thing?
That Anna Petrie, she's the conservation agent.
Oh, okay.
All right, so right now for the use of the town beach, we have a town beach rental request form that can get filled out. I thought on here that it had said something like we're only renting it during the beach season. It doesn't say that on here, even though I thought that it did. But we do list in there that, there might be a need for a lifeguard, and clearly we're not gonna have a lifeguard come in. I don't think we wouldn't be able to employ a lifeguard outside of our beach season because they're considered a seasonal employee, so we wouldn't be able to pay them. So I was thinking of, instead of having to approve something like this year after year, of just including something on that rental form or use form, we could rename it, that would say something along the lines of, the Parks Commission encourages educational programs, with no additional fee for use or no fee for use, with prior approval of the facilities or recreation director. I just something so they don't have to come back to us ever again, and it's there. And we of course can't force anybody. If there's not a town employee available to go open it, we can't force it, but at least this would, I don't know.
There any limitations on that? Like I'm thinking of like like an extreme circumstance, an extreme circumstance of repeated repeated use for a particular educational program or something of that nature that requires a regular schedule of that being opened on a regular basis.
So we
for
could say
educational
something
use.
like
I don't, again, extreme, but if
We
we
could
were
say
releasing
some-
brook trout on a weekly basis kind of deal, like, I mean, it's, that kind of thing.
You could say single use per calendar year.
I think that's too limiting. I can't come up with a scenario.
yeah,
We
it's-
need
I
more,
think it
but-
is limiting because you know what? I see, it's not every year. It used to happen every year. There was a teacher at the middle school, they'll bring the kids down here in my backyard. And they'll come usually in the spring and the fall. So I can see, like, if you're exploring something within, doing something related to.
Yeah,
lake.
my extreme circumstance might not be necessary, Karen, truthfully, the more I think about it, because like, as you said, like if someone's not available to open the beach. they're
Right,
not
but at the
available to
same
open the
time,
beach,
I
kinda
do
deal.
see what you're saying. I mean, we could have, we say educational purposes, but I mean, you could certainly have a group make a case for an educational use that's on a weekly basis.
Well, one thing
Yeah.
I was thinking, it was more like,
We gotta say school related, I would say school related as opposed to education related.
yeah, the
That
other
would
thing
make
I was
it
gonna
Tied
say,
into a particular, like tied into a school.
well,
Not particular school, but school. Because anyone could say it's an educational purpose. Like, I mean, I could sit here and come up with a educational plan and say, can we go use the town beach?
so I had two thoughts on this. One was, tie it to a educational institution versus education purpose. So that way, it's associated with the school versus like this,
Yep.
what Chris described. But the one thing I had, not necessarily concerned, but it's I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm not sure if it's a concern or not, but there are religious schools out there, and that we could be running into. I don't know. It could become the christening center for a church, which I'm not against christening. I'm just saying we don't want our town beach to become the center of that. So I would be cautious about that as well.
So they can
Because-
rent it. So the,
They can rent it, but it doesn't mean we're doing it for free, which is
correct,
different.
right.
And I
which-
think anyone can rent, but if you're doing as a accommodation to free of charge, that's a little different.
So,
My gut feeling is that, we're spending way too much time on this, and I think it would be easier to, do the approval or just pass it off to the facilities director and the rec director to handle it. But with the support from the commission that, this type of an event, and I don't know where maybe they find a way to draw the lines there where it's a one-off thing per year, that it be at no charge. Yeah, I think we're getting way too involved and way too deep into the weeds.
I mean, with that said, Dave, you know, like if this happened before, we never got involved. I mean, it's on the agenda because you requested. I say leave it and just, you know, send a note to, you know, I think the best thing to make sure these things happen is to send a note to Chris and say, hey, Chris, this request came about. If there's not a town employee available, I can make myself available. That's the best way
Hey.
to make it
Yeah,
happen.
I agree.
Let's get ready for bed.
And at
Brush your
that,
teeth.
the last time that it did happen, which I believe was 2 years ago, because last year they were told that nobody was available to unlock the gate. But 2 years ago, it was handled through conservation. Matt Morrow was the contact. And I think, excuse me, that happened because he was involved in helping them get the grant through Mass Fish and Game. So all he did was he met them over there, and DPW was the one to unlock the gate 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the history on it.
Yeah, so I think the best on this, because it would be hard for us to, you know, as soon as we start regulating things, it's opening a can of worms as we've seen it. So if you're
Yep.
available, you can drop a note to Chris and say, Chris, if you don't have someone available, I'll be happy to drive there. And if you're not available, you know, send us all a note. Maybe one of us will be available.
I actually plan to be there. I think I can keep that date or that time period open. It's only a 3-hour period, so
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I can get to it. Like I say, assuming the other issue that's pending right now doesn't interfere with it.
Okay, so, and if you need help, if you can't be there, drop us a note and, you know, maybe you'll get a different volunteer.
Okay, I don't know if it's in any of the emails that you guys have gotten so far. The target date is April 13th.
Okay. I will even add to my calendar and you keep us posted, Dave.
Will do.
Dave. My calendar before I forget. All right, I'm gonna write it down because my calendar is not opening. Okay. All right, so Dave, you're gonna send an email to Chris saying if you can't help, I will be there. Okay. All right, chair updates, because we have discussed so much. The only thing that I have of it was this, I don't know if you all saw, but there was an article in that Ledger about the damage on the baseball fields, which included, you know, mentioning of the snowmobiles down Fitzgerald. So the snow riders, they, you know, they're really good. They are good stewards of open space in Lunenburg, but they want to set the example that this is not a snowmobile issue, but rather, you know, people with no, I don't know, common sense. And they,
Hey, what's up,
they-
everybody? Mark here. I'm going to show you a really
what was
I don't know
that?
where that came from.
Was that Pat? Oh,
No idea where that came from.
No, it was me when I went to close my folder out, it auto
Okay.
started.
okay. So the snow riders said that if there is any work that needs to be done at Fitzgerald, they'll be happy to help. And I pass that information to Chris Ruth, who's managing that issue. So again, I want to say thank you to the snow riders. They're great
Great.
stewards of our open space, great partners with everything we do. I don't think the article said anything different, but if anyone's hearing us this late, we don't have a problem with snow riders. We love them. They do tons of work. So, all right, approval of minutes. Did you all read the minutes? It was the same that was there week before, okay? Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 2023.
Can I get a second?
Okay.
All right, and let's do a roll call for that. Karen?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Chris Sullivan?
Aye.
Dave?
I'll abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay, and I was there and I for myself. Okay, and that's 4 and 1 abstain. And the motion passes. And the next thing is upcoming meetings. So the select board is pending, and the next meeting for us would fall on April 19. And does that work with everybody?
I'm working that night, but I can get in on it. So
Okay. Hopefully there won't be any fires to put out, literally.
here's open.
Yeah. Chris Sullivan, you good with April 19?
Sorry, I muted. Yes, it looks good in my calendar.
Dave?
Yeah, I should be okay, again, assuming that the pending issue doesn't interfere with it, but I'm expecting that to be late April or early May. So yes,
Okay. Karen?
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay, so that's our next meeting. Other business that may come before the board, business matter legally, I don't have anything. Does anybody have any other
The
item?
only thing I was gonna, I was gonna bring up, and Anna, I texted you about this, would be, I was approached by members of the forthcoming 300th anniversary committee
Okay,
and asked to fill out a talent bank form to join. They'd like to have someone from Parks on that committee.
okay.
The Lincolns had reached out and asked if something I was interested in. So just before I just dove in, figured I would bring it before the commission if that was agreeable.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. If you can volunteer, it's a big deal.
Yeah, they don't really, that was my question to them, was what's involved, and they don't really know yet because they're still building the committee, but it'd be nice to have Parks represented, and
Yeah,
so
and they need 2 people, so maybe Pat wants to go there too.
I think they need 3, don't they?
no, they were down to 2 as of last night.
It's good.
Yeah,
And,
Okay.
and they were told they could have as many alternates or whatever other people involved as they wanted.
Okay. All right, yeah, I'd love if you can join, Chris.
Cool.
That'd be great. You really need to figure out you're like disappearing. It's kind of crazy.
I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea why.
I think every time you lean, you just get off of the frame enough that, yeah. It's like your invisible cloak from Harry Potter. Okay. So, do we have any public comments from the board?
I have one.
Yep.
I just want to put out a public thank you again. I know Chris Ruth had mentioned it earlier, but to say it again to the Powell family, thanking them for going down and taking care of the damage that happened over at Marshall Park. They have done a tremendous amount of work at all of our parks, but they responded immediately to the request for help to fix that situation. So a huge thank you to them for putting forward their time and effort to help fix the damage that was done.
Dave, do you have an announcement?
Yeah, I've got a public comment first, board comment, and then something else after that. I was very perplexed during last night's Board of Select meeting, Select Board, excuse me, meeting. A little bit of history on this. Previous Select Board meeting, the ratification of the appointment of our rec director was delayed due to the fact that we had not had a chance to meet and talk with the potential employee or the hire. Then lo and behold, last night, it's on the agenda again. Again, we haven't met since then. And the one member of the select board actually asked, is the Parks Commission on board with this? And town manager's response, and I won't get it exactly right because I meant to go back to the tape today and write it down, was basically that the Parks Chair has been involved in the process, and I assume that the Parks Commission is on board. We've, as a commission, I feel we've had zero involvement in this process. And I think that was a blatant overstatement last night that I'll assume that Parks is on board. So I fault our chair for not involving the commission. I felt totally disenfranchised in that process. And this is something we talked about during the reorganization of the committee, that we are a 5-member board. And yeah, there are times when all 5 members can't be involved in the process because of time constraints. But we missed a meeting because it wasn't posted properly or on time or whatever. This was an important enough item that a special meeting could have been called or should have been called in my eyes, and it was not. So I just needed to make that comment this evening because I was quite upset with the answer that was posed to the select board just before they voted to approve the appointment. Secondly, I'm announcing this evening that I will not be running for re-election in May. As I've mentioned privately to a number of people, this is my intent is to back away from my commitments to municipal government here in Lunenburg, and be pretty much done with it by the end of May, with the exception of possibly green communities, and I haven't decided on that yet. It's time for me to move on with personal life plans, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Miss
Okay.
your knowledge, Dave. Keep you on as a consultant. Something.
Yeah, you know, I am very concerned and talking with other people in town that are my vintage, I guess, is I'll put it that way, is that the historic piece that I and many other people that have been around for a long time have brought to municipal government is fading away. And it is definitely a concern, but, you know, there's a point where you got to move on and do what's best for the individual. So that's where I'm at. I'm very willing to discuss with anybody at any time. Just about everybody in the world's got my phone number and my email address. And although there is going to be a delay in my retirement, I intend to be fully retired and permanently retired by February next year at the absolute latest.
All right. Well, Dave, thank you for your many years of service here at the Parks Commission. How many years did you serve here?
Officially only a 3-year term, but I've been attending meetings. Karen can attest to it, probably for 6 or 8 years, I think. I don't know, as long,
Oh,
almost
wow.
as long as Karen's been on the.
You've only served for 3 years?
Yeah,
Is
I
it-
don't think. Yeah, I
'Cause
don't.
you were appointed and then you were elected. Did you do an elected 3-year term?
Yes,
Yeah, so you're probably
Oh.
close to like 3.5 or 4 years.
yeah, well, it could be. I did 9 years on the Board of Health and, you know, a number of years on the Finance Committee, so on and so forth. At one point, I had 6 seats. But it's time to move on. And I won't call it accused, but it was suggested that I volunteered too much.
Well, definitely the town needs more volunteers because you have
I
several
agree.
positions open.
I totally.
So thank you for your many years of service. I'm sure even though you're going to retire, you're not going to fully disappear. So now, once I learn about Dave, not seeking reelection. I did reach out to a few people to see if they were interested, because this is a very busy commission. I did, so first of all, I did confirm with Dave that he was truly not seeking reelection. He confirmed that he wasn't. And Colleen Berthium Shapiro said that she'll be throwing her hat on the ring comes Monday. And she asked me who was on the commission, and I told her everybody's name, and she's like, "Oh, I know everybody." In fact, it sounded like she knows you all better than she knows me. But
Know
so
Colleen pretty well.
yeah, so Colleen is as of Sunday was when I was talking with her via just texting. So she will be coming to the town caucus on Monday, and then she'll be nominated. So hopefully she'll serve us as well as David did.
The caucus, what time is the caucus on Monday again? Is it 6?
It's a 7.
Evan,
7.
Yeah. And Karen, you're planning to run again, right? Yes.
Karen, stick
Steve?
with your guns, stick with your guns. Don't commit till the last minute.
You
Yeah.
have said privately you will.
I think my arm's been twisted a little bit to stick
In the
around.
minutes.
Certainly,
In the
yeah.
minutes now.
I'll be honest with you though, and this is nothing against Pat or Chris. It would be very exciting to serve on an elected board that is a majority women. Because I think we would be one of the only elected boards in town that has that majority. And we all have daughters, and I just think that I think it would be exciting, and we've got some great projects coming down the line, and I think it would, it's gonna add some diversity. The only thing that concerns me is, like, as Dave said, we are gonna lose his vintage history. And although I could leave up behind the car that's located over at Marshall Park and not put a chain around it to put it in a museum, there's certainly times where I've had to rely back on his memory of things. Because I mean, in all honesty, this is now, what will this be? 3, 5, 7, I don't know, maybe 7 years for me or something on the Parks Commission. And that first 3 or 4 years, it was a lot of time catching up on history and what's happened in the past. And, a lot of stuff that I share with you guys is stuff that I've picked up over the years. And, eventually you'll all get it, and it'll be old hat to everybody. But yeah, losing that the vintageness, the antique feel, Dave.
Yep.
So anyway, but yes, I will not be committing until
The evening of the 27th.
15th on Monday.
All right. All right.
Your pleasure to serve on a committee with 60% female. Oh, that'll be fun.
We'll just go with the majority.
All
Anyway,
right. With that, can I please get a
motion
motion
to
to
adjourn at
adjourn?
9:04.
Okay. Second that?
Second.
Second.
All right. Roll call, Karen,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
and I for myself. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Anna, don't forget to send that survey plan, please. Marshall Park.
It'll probably be tomorrow, but it's on my notes.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Night,
Good night.
everybody.
Good night.